Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of Emerge Financial Health. Thank you to all of you who have joined us over the past 2 days. To kick us off, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on what we have seen so far at the conference and set context for our new attendees. We began by discussing the big financial health trends we are seeing in innovation, fintech, and policy. We learned how financial institutions can better partner with the government and fintechs to distribute payments like PPP, stimulus checks, and child tax credit. We then spent time honing in on the individual and how women, and particularly women of color, have been disproportionately and negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, in almost every session, there was a common thread, and it was the acknowledgement that there are systemic barriers in our country that have perpetuated inequality for Black and Brown communities. And while these barriers have existed for decades, the pandemic brought a stark reminder that we do not have equal access to healthcare and financial security, and that not that everybody had the option to work or study from home. It took a pandemic to show us that there is more plaguing in our communities than just a deadly virus. It is also cycles of poverty gone too long. It is a lack of basic infrastructure so communities can get the benefits they need on time. It is equating health with the ability to pay. It is the lack of equal pay for women. It is the lack of basic childcare infrastructure. It is a criminal justice system that has been extracting wealth from communities through punitive fees and fines. It is ignoring for far too long the financial health needs of communities that need it the most. But in the middle of all these conversations, we also heard incredibly powerful stories of change and opportunity. And we find ourselves in a financial health movement now. We discussed how fintechs like Propel and Daylight are filling up the gaps in benefits distribution and designing financial products that cater to the LGBTQ+ community. We heard from Her Majesty Queen Maxima of the Netherlands that has been tirelessly advocating for financial inclusion at a global scale. Banks like Citi, who are committing to anti-racist policies. And overall, we heard from visionary leaders who are reimagining the future of financial health. And that left me inspired for today's conversation because today is all about and highlighting what industry leaders are actually doing to improve financial health through partnerships, commitments, and solutions, both top-down and bottom-up. In today's format, we will be sharing fast-paced spotlights that to drive financial health outcomes. We won't be having any formal Q&A, but feel free to engage with other attendees and leave comments and thoughts in the chat box. Before getting started, I'd like to send a special message of thanks to our sponsors. Foundations Morgan Chase and Prudential Financial, Gold sponsors BlackRock and PayPal, Silver sponsors Bank of America, Fifth Third Bank, MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth, and MedLife Foundation. Bronze sponsors Capital One, Members Development, National Credit Union Foundation, and Opportune. Thank you for making these 3 days of content possible. As a quick reminder, we will also be activating a poll at the end of the sessions, so you can easily participate by clicking the link on the chat box. If you scroll this page, you'll find resources related to the topics that we'll be discussing during today's sessions. And if you have any technical difficulties, you can use the chat bubble at the bottom right of your screen. Closed captioning will be available. You can see the link below the streaming window. So as I mentioned today, we're going to be talking about partnerships and commitments. So let's get started with partnerships. As Jennifer Tetcher mentioned on day 1, partnerships are one of the key elements that use for a successful financial health movement. Partnerships between financial institutions, nonprofits, fintechs, and government agencies are fundamental to scale the financial health efforts. These partnerships create opportunities to reach millions of people to help them better save, spend, borrow, and plan. Now, I am thrilled to introduce you to our 3 spotlights for today on innovative financial health partnerships, how they came to fruition, what their goals and objectives are, what they're solving for, and how they're evaluating their success. We're going to be hearing from a partnership developed between Prudential Financial and the Wounded Warriors Project, aiming to help military veterans and military families achieve financial security. We'll also hear from BlackRock's cross-sector partnerships focused on making emergency savings more accessible to low to moderate income households, and from Fifth Third Bank, who partnered with National Urban League to support communities in the U.S. most affected by COVID-19 through upskilling and reskilling services. In just a few moments, we'll hear from these organizations.
Hi, I'm Jim Beamisterfer, Vice President of Veterans Initiatives at Prudential and an Army veteran. Prudential opened its Office of Veterans Initiatives in 2010. It was soon after the recession, and our focus was on employment. Recently transitioned veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan were among those Americans experiencing some of the worst unemployment of all. Prudential and several other companies dug in to address this problem. We have a long-standing commitment to our military, including veteran service organizations, both local and national. And we are proud to be recognized as an employer of choice for both veterans and military spouses. My team focuses on helping military veterans, transitioning service members, and military families achieve financial security. Several years ago, Prudential created a financial wellness education program for employees of our institutional clients, the companies that are customers of Prudential. We then modified that program to include military-specific topics, such as the GI Bill, VA home loans, the blended retirement system, and other topics. And we added military family imagery. Thus, our military financial wellness program was born. This free financial wellness education program includes a digital financial wellness portal and easy-to-use self-assessment tool, virtual seminars across some 40 topics, and GreenPath debt and credit management services. This program provides information, resources, and tools at no cost. We then launched this program with various veteran and military service organizations. To date, we have partnered with more than 40 different organizations, including the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Wounded Warrior Project is one of those organizations, and they are leading the charge in integrating this program into their offerings. I would now like to introduce Tom Kastner, Wounded Warrior Project's Vice President of Financial Wellness. Tom is a fellow West Point grad and Army veteran. Since retiring from the Army, Tom has held leadership positions in industry and academia. Tom?
Thank you, Jim, for the kind introduction. Talk a little bit about Wounded Warrior Project's perspective on financial wellness for warriors and their families. We learn about these financial challenges through two main sources. One of those is our annual warrior survey, and the other is feedback from day-to-day interactions with warriors during our other program engagements. We recognize the need for financial education and a coaching component to complement the work we are already doing to help warriors find employment and to help them file their disability claims with the Veterans Administration. If I may use Prudential's messaging, we recognize that we need to help warriors put their financial households in order. Prudential's program is a timely and welcome addition to our portfolio. Specifically, the Prudential team is a perfect solution to provide education, counseling, and coaching to warriors and families. The advisors remove barriers to having difficult conversations, and the group as a whole delivers content and conducts personal counseling with great respect and understanding of the warrior's perspective. Jim?
Tom, could you share a little bit about which components of our financial wellness program you use and how you've incorporated that into your overall offering to support the warriors?
Sure. The first thing we like to do is try to prioritize entry points for the warriors into the span of available options in the Prudential program. Let me give you an example. So one warrior family may come to us with high debt and they're struggling to meet monthly obligations, while another family may be what we would call more financially stable and they're interested in saving money and making college investments. So we want to place them in the right component of the program at the right time. Everybody gets access to the online portal for general information and for self-learning. They can go there anytime they want to do those assessments or get reference material and get individual questions answered without having to have a person in the loop. I think the meat and potatoes of this, though, is the seminar across several core financial education topics and the follow-on one-on-one session with one of the Prudential advisors. This is where our workload is as well, because it takes a lot of time to connect the warrior with the seminar at the right level and then to follow up with the advisor to bring to bear and dig into the details on the specific questions that warrior and family might have about the topic of the seminar. In some cases, we do refer warriors to the Green Path team for assistance in developing a debt reduction plan, because the warrior survey, believe it or not, over 50% of our warrior population has in excess of $20,000 of existing debt. So we know the problem's out there. The issue for us is find the warriors and get them into the program.
Wow, that's excellent, Tom. So what kind of feedback have you received? What are the results and feedback from the participants?
Well, we're getting ready to reach the 1,000 warrior served mark in this. And what we do is at the 6-month mark, once the warriors enter the program, we send out a short survey to gauge progress. A couple data points for you. 14% have expressed an increase in optimism for their financial futures, which I think is huge. 18% are reporting an increase in money management skills. 38% feel better about their position 6 months after joining the program. And this, for me, puts us over the top. Over 56% of respondents report that right away they are motivated to manage debt, create a budget, evaluate spending, and speak with a professional advisor. So I think all those things talk directly to the success of the program to date.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. That's really motivating to see the results that you're having. Can you talk a little bit more about the impact and results that you and your team are seeing through this program?
First and foremost, we're not in all 50 states yet. So that's my number one priority. And in order to make that happen, we are actually going to triple our team size this coming year to make sure that we can be in all regions of the United States, knowing that the Prudential teams are already out there ready to do the service for warriors. Tripling the team size, and we're also going to align the financial education team with our Warriors to Work team as we recognize the mutual supporting value of having these two areas work together to improve financial wellness and stability for families. We all know and recognize that improving financial wellness, financial resilience will lead to eliminating the stress factors that face our military and veteran families today.
Wow, thank you, Tom, for joining us today and sharing how Wounded Warrior Project is partnering with Prudential to help our nation's veterans and their families achieve financial security. It was so great to hear about the results that we're having. Great job.
Thank you, Jim.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening and good morning, depending upon where you're dialing in from. I'm Claire Chamberlain. I'm a managing director at BlackRock, and I'm delighted to be here for an opportunity to share a bit of an overview and update on the BlackRock Emergency Savings Initiative. As most of you know, the urgency of emergency savings was underscored and accelerated by the pandemic. And for families living on low and moderate incomes, that hypothetical lack safety net became not so hypothetical, but actually very, very real. In the course of last year, at the end of last year, there were a number of surveys undertaken of LMI households by Commonwealth, one of our emergency savings partners, and DECIA. And what those surveys revealed is that for people that had, households that had some amount of liquid emergency savings, they were able over the first 7 months of the pandemic to turn to those, and as a result to not have to turn to predatory debt or other forms of support that would create longer term problems for those households. The other thing the surveys revealed is that for people that had some amount of liquid savings is that they were 2 times as likely to not have to invade their retirement savings. And so they were able to continue to build for the future for themselves and their families. So this precarious situation obviously didn't begin with the pandemic, even though it was exacerbated by the pandemic. And we know from the SHED report as far back as 2017 that American households were experiencing a lack, many of them were experiencing a lack of safety net reserves in the form of liquid savings. In fact, 41% was the stat quoted at the time, and then reinforced over the subsequent years prior to the pandemic. And it was really this state of affairs that when BlackRock was investigating and considering standing up a flagship philanthropic enterprise, that we decided to lean into. One, because we felt that it was likely going to need system-wide change, which would require multiple partners operating across diverse channels and very different situations in order to address it. And because we thought that we might, with our voice and our resources, be able to lean in and play a meaningful role. And so in 2019, in early 2019, we launched the Emergency Savings Initiative. And our goal was to really bring together a partnership approach to helping to create innovation to address that problem. And so the initiative began by defining what we meant by an emergency savings solution or product. And we said it had to be a product that was no fee up front, did not require minimum balance, and no overdraft penalties in the course of usage. And with that as kind of our guiding target, we then went out and issued an RFP and ended up identifying 3 nonprofit consumer financial health experts: Common Sense Lab, Commonwealth, and the Financial Health Network, sponsor of today's program. And we brought them together and began to collaborate on an outline for addressing this challenge and thinking about ways to recruit companies across the spectrum who might be willing and able to pilot emergency savings precisely for the demographic that we were focused on, which was, as I said, people living on low and moderate incomes. One of the things also of note is, in addition to establishing what we meant by a high quality emergency savings product, was to also say that what we wanted to see was people using that product. So putting small dollar savings aside, building up some amount of balances that would be useful for an unexpected hiccup or a dislocation in an income stream, and then replenishing. So it was really a story about usage rather than aiming for an absolute total balance amount. We then, over the course of, we're now 2.5 years into the initiative, and in that time we have now assembled a coalition of 30 plus partners across a variety of different sectors. We have both retirement plan providers, we have payroll providers, we have W-2 employers, financial institutions, fintechs. And across this robust group of representatives, our three nonprofit partners are on a case-by-case, one-on-one basis, working with these partners to design and develop and put into market at various levels of scale, some test and learn, some larger scale, but to put into the field opportunities to test and see if there are ways to, in as friction-free a way as possible, make it possible for people to build up some amount of liquid savings. And you may have seen, or some of you may have seen, we had a press release recently in early May announcing a second, third cohort of participants in the Emergency Savings Initiative. There were 5 that were included in that announcement: ADP, Self Financial, Varo, Truist, and Best Buy. And they joined some of our existing partners who include, among others, Voya and UPS. Of note is that a plan provider like Voya reaches 6 million plus people a year, and so the scale of being able to figure out what works for plan providers to offer is enormously compelling and interesting to us at the Emergency Savings Initiative. To give you an example of what kind of innovation our nonprofit partners are working on with these willing companies, I would turn to Truist, one of our newest members. And Truist, which is the 10th largest bank by assets currently in the United States, they are going to be working with one of our nonprofit partners to figure out ways to incentivize small dollar savings. And so they're probably going to end up working on a couple of different approaches to that and figuring out which one is most impactful. But it may be to incentivize, say the growth in savings balance, use of savings, opening of accounts, etc. So the idea is they will do that, and over the course of this year, starting this summer, is that they will learn about impact and then adapt that and scale it within their system. So we're super excited about that as well. And I guess just to wrap up, is to say that in addition to these partners working with our company partners, we're also excited about the opportunities for real policy change with AutoSave as our North Star. But more to come on that, because I think I've used up my time with you today. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Stewart Young, Chief Corporate Social Responsibility Officer, and on behalf of Fifth Third Bank, it's a pleasure to be with you today at the 2021 Financial Health Network Emerge Conference. The financial health of both our customers and communities is important to me and my colleagues at Fifth Third. We know the importance of financially empowering individuals, families, and small businesses. When everyone is financially healthy, communities thrive. Every day, our team works to help people reach their financial dreams. These dreams can come in the form of first-time home ownership, opening the doors to a small business, reestablishing credit, or opening a savings account. We know the foundation of these dreams is built upon a person's ability to earn a livable wage. A strong workforce is the key to financially healthy and sustainable communities. That's why we are investing in and supporting workforce development programs and initiatives throughout our footprint. At Fifth Third, we look beyond bank accounts to help customers reach their goals. Our team is consistently seeking innovative partnerships that will bring opportunities to move our communities towards the goal of financial stability and equity. One example of this is our partnership with the national reemployment company, Next Jobs. In 2012, during the economic downturn, we launched a program to provide personalized job coaching, job seekers toolkit, and training to mortgage customers challenged with paying their mortgage due to job loss. The goal of this effort was to support customers in addressing the core underlying issues of finding a job. We expanded this service to online banking customers and subsequently to our nonprofit partner clients throughout our bank's footprint. Since the program's inception, we have supported over 20,000 individuals with job search tools and resources. Today, I'm excited to share the news about our new partnership with the National Urban League that expands our work in the workforce development arena. Together, with this proven and powerful community partner, we will provide upskilling and reskilling services to workforce development program participants. Over the course of the next 2 years, selected Urban League affiliates across Fifth Third's footprint will provide career counseling services to participants, connecting them to training and job opportunities. These services will be provided through the Urban Apprenticeship Jobs Program, the Urban Reentry Program, and the Urban Youth Empowerment Program. We know that workforce development is needed in our communities. Studies show that before COVID-19's devastating impact upon the economy, occupations and industries such as retail, hospitality, and food services were vulnerable to looming threats like automation. Those very same studies also showed that these jobs had no pathway to career advancement and were overrepresented by low-wage workers of color. COVID-19 exacerbated these vulnerabilities for low-wage workers. Without strategic intervention from programs such as this, these individuals will continue to struggle to find a pathway to economic stability. Upskilling and reskilling programs help unemployed and underemployed workers acquire new skills to advance their career and economic outcomes through training and job opportunities. Fifth Third Bank's partnership with the National Urban League will create brighter financial outcomes for those most in need as we move into a post-pandemic world. This partnership with the National Urban League is an extension and continuation of the numerous Urban League programs that we support at the local level. Our market leadership teams represent Fifth Third on many local affiliates, Urban League boards, and committees. And earlier this year, we were excited to announce that our head of business banking and Chief Enterprise Responsibility Officer, Kala Gibson, joined the National Urban League Board of Directors. Additionally, members of our African American business resource groups actively participate on the Urban League's Young Professionals Committees. Our mortgage loan officers actively work with the Urban League to teach homebuyer education classes. And in March, we partnered with the Urban League of Tennessee to host a virtual financial empowerment class for more than 900 individuals. Lastly, here in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio, we partner with the local Urban League and the Minority Business Assistance Center to provide technical programming for new and existing entrepreneurs. All these programs help improve lives and make a difference in our communities. I have personally witnessed how programming and services provided by the Urban League can positively impact and improve communities. During my career, I served 9 years on the executive board of the Columbus Urban League. During my board tenure, we worked tirelessly to create programming, including daycare for working parents, home ownership programming, and emergency services, just to name a few. I know that without these services, many community members would have faced critical needs and experienced hardship. Fortunately, their financial health didn't suffer because the Urban League was there. Many urban leagues throughout the country are not only leading efforts in their communities to support COVID relief, they are also championing efforts to advance racial equity. We know racial equity and inclusion are essential to overall financial health. Fifth Third has committed $2.8 billion toward our Accelerating Racial Equity, Equality, and Inclusion initiative. The commitment is focused on 4 strategic pillars that directly impact customers and communities with targeted outcomes, enabling the bank to track progress and measure success in the areas of strategic investments, access to capital, financial inclusion and education, and social justice and advocacy. We're honored that the National Urban League is part of this initiative. Their heritage of civil and urban rights advocacy brings strength to our work. Supporting the financial health of our communities and customers is at the heart of being a Fifth Third Batter. Our LIFE programs, which stand for Lives Improved Through Financial Empowerment, have provided over 2.6 million youth and adults with financial education. Our financial education course offerings for adults, called our Fifth Third Empower You program, is traditionally taught by our bankers on site at various companies or with our community partners. Courses include a financial wellness checkup, as well as classes that teach financial health, investments in planning, insurance planning, home ownership, and college savings. Our Fifth Third Financial Empowerment Mobile, also known as eBus, serves as a mobile financial classroom equipped with computers and Wi-Fi to serve our communities with banking services and products. Community members are provided financial education, free credit reports, account openings, home buyer and small business resources, and job search assistance. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Financial Empowerment Mobile program provided pivotal information that was critical to individuals maintaining their financial stability throughout. The virtual eBus program launched in June of 2020 and hosted nearly 200 events during the second half of 2020, reaching over 7,200 individuals, providing financial education, credit, workforce development, banking, and hardship supportive services. These programs are an inherent part of our culture of keeping the financial health of our customers and communities at the center of everything that we do. This is banking a Fifth Third better. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be here today. And on behalf of Fifth Third Bank, it is our pleasure to be part of the Emerge Conference. Thank you.
Well, I'm inspired by the power of these partnerships, and I hope that you are too. They are truly demonstrating the power of cross-sector collaboration in the efforts of improving financial health. Up next, we'll hear about commitments made by financial institutions who've stepped up publicly and made pledges to support economic growth, close opportunity gaps, and advance the financial health of millions of underserved individuals throughout the U.S. These commitments are significant, meaningful, and measurable. We will hear from two organizations, Capital One and JP Morgan Chase, how each organization approached financial health commitments, what consumer pain points they were solving for, how they have operationalized these efforts internally, so all business line leads are empowered to be financial health champions. We will begin with Capital One Spotlight and its commitment to supporting growth in underserved communities through its affordable housing initiative and digital access pilot, followed by a spotlight by JP Morgan Chase and its $30 billion racial equity initiative aimed at providing economic opportunities for underserved communities, especially Black and Latinx communities. I will turn it over to them momentarily.
Imagine coming to work and focusing on what you need to get your job done without distraction, because you have the financial security that can make for a better life at home and peace of mind at the office. That's a goal everyone dreams of, but not one that everyone believes they can achieve. Maybe you're worried about making ends meet today, or you're planning for the future and could use some help figuring things out. Now's the time to take advantage of financial wellness from Prudential, a connected set of web-based and in-person experiences created from the ground up. With it, you can learn to confidently address day-to-day money matters and help achieve your most important life goals, like college savings or retirement, while protecting your assets and your loved ones from key risks. Using the Wellness Toolkit is simple. Start with a quick assessment of your financial health to understand where you are and what actions you need to take to help get you where you want to be. Based on your life goals, we bring you the Financial Wellness Center, a personalized experience including videos, articles, and tools to help you make confident choices. The interactive content is constantly refreshed and includes tools and guides to retirement, estate planning, budgeting, and other topics to help you chart your future needs and manage your day-to-day. Each online experience takes only minutes to read, watch, or complete. Everything can be saved to reference later and can be shared with loved ones so that you can work together to help achieve family financial goals. You'll also be able to tap into webinars and attend live seminars to understand new ways to make the most of your benefits and achieve what you want from life. And you can even talk with a professional to get the answers you need when you need them. As you learn more about your financial choices, decisions become clearer and can be carried out with more confidence. No matter if you need to get back on track or want to explore new possibilities, you can enjoy what Prudential calls the wellness effect. Being able to set aside financial concerns that hold you back so you can focus on moving forward with the rest of your life.
My name is Desiree Francis, and I lead one of the teams at Capital One that finances affordable housing across the country. The work of my team benefits over 10,000 households annually. As we think about the impact of our work, we think not only about the physical structures of the properties, but also about the households who live within the four walls and how we can improve their well-being. Affordable housing is one of the key pillars of Capital One's Impact Initiative, an initial $200 million 5-year commitment to support growth in underserved communities and to advance socioeconomic mobility by closing gaps in equity and opportunity. Why is housing, more importantly, affordable housing, critical to financial health? Before I answer that question, let me share a commonly used definition of affordable housing. Housing is considered affordable if a household spends no more than 30% of their monthly gross income on housing costs. If your housing costs exceed 30% of your monthly gross income, then you are considered housing burdened. Imagine if you spent more than 30% of your monthly gross income on housing costs. How would that impact your financial health, your ability to save, your ability to build wealth, your ability to weather short-term hardships? 44 million households are renters, according to the National Multifamily Housing Council, Quick Facts Residence Demographics. A 2017 U.S. Government Accountability Office report found that 48% of rental households were cost burdened, up from 42% in 2001. According to Pew Trust, rent-burdened households also suffer from financial instability. 64% of households had less than $400 in cash in the bank. 84% of these households are African-American households. Pre-pandemic, rent-burdened households had higher eviction rates, increased financial vulnerability, a wider use of social safety net programs. These households also had a greater chance of food insecurity and also a higher chance of skipping medical appointments. According to the Census Bureau's Households Pulse Survey, 49% of renter households reported at least some employment income loss between mid-March and mid-September of 2020. The chances of securing affordable rental housing is less than winning the lottery in some places. In 2019, the New York Times reported that households who applied for affordable rental housing through the New York City housing lottery process had a 1 in 592 chance of securing an affordable rental unit. The odds of winning any New York lottery prize is 1 in 46. The demand for affordable housing is high, especially for households with low to moderate income. But the supply of affordable housing isn't sufficient to keep up with the growing demand. The gap has led to our nation's affordable housing crisis. Several years ago, as we thought about resident well-being in properties we financed, we identified a resident need for high-speed digital access. We surveyed over 1,000 residents in properties with 10 or more units in 21 cities. What we found is 38% of families with low income relied on smartphones for internet access and to get work done. The main reason being that the cost was too high or they were unable to pay the bill. During the pandemic, many felt the need for high-speed internet and the impact of not having access. The pandemic delayed the pilot launch of the Capital One Digital Access Program, also known as CODA. The objective of the CODA program is to promote digital inclusion for residents at properties we financed. The intent of the program is to offer digital access as a pathway for opportunities. Last year, we launched the pilot in 11 properties impacting over 1,000 households. 40% of these households had no or substandard internet access prior to the program. Households are using the internet access device and digital education provided as part of the pilot primarily to pay bills, conduct online banking, complete homework, apply for jobs, benefits, and services, and to connect to family and friends. We are learning from the initial pilot and continue to expand the program to other properties with a strong desire to scale so that all households in affordable housing can have access to high-speed internet. Capital One will continue our work to close gaps in affordable housing and digital access. Housing is so interconnected to all aspects of our lives, including our financial health. I hope that you stay engaged and informed about affordable housing in your community, and you seek partnerships that benefit both individual and community financial health. I would like to thank the Financial Health Network for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Good afternoon. I'm Carolina Giannicelli, and I help lead the Community Impact Team at JP Morgan Chase, a group created to help deliver the firm's commitment to reducing the racial wealth gap for Black and Latinx people. I came into this role late last year, soon after the firm announced our commitment of $30 billion over the next 5 years to address systemic barriers that have prevented so many Black and Latinx families across the country from economic mobility, the ability to improve financial outcomes for themselves, their families, and their communities. Racial equity and social justice are my passion. I'm a two-time immigrant, having moved between 2 Latin American countries at an early age and then to the US. I'm the daughter of small business owners who twice had to restart a shoe business to keep our family afloat. I was fortunate enough to attend a great college in the US and start a journey that would transform my life. At JP Morgan Chase, I built a career in the private bank, often the only Latina in the room, learning how wealth is built and created in this country. And I'm committed to using that knowledge to help fix what is broken and out of reach for so many. So let's talk about our $30 billion commitment to racial equity. At its core, the commitment is designed to address key derailers of wealth creation, such as access to affordable housing, access to home ownership, access to capital for small business owners, and of course, financial health. A large part of this commitment is dedicated to the preservation and construction of affordable housing. $12 billion are earmarked to increase home ownership, including the origination of 40,000 new home loans over the next 5 years. To support small minority business owners, we've committed $2 billion in incremental loans and $750 million in incremental spend toward Black and Latinx suppliers. And to support broader community development, we're investing in MDIs and CDFIs so they can in turn provide capital to the people who need it most. Another overarching goal of the commitment is to rethink banking, lending, and how we reach underserved communities with the right tools, products, information, and resources to promote increased financial health to access banking. The foundation for making meaningful change starts with financial health. We need to help more people understand how to become homeowners in a sustainable way. We need to help more small business owners succeed in growing and keeping their doors open. We need more people to participate in the banking system so they can build and improve their credit scores, save for emergencies and for their long-term goals, and to know how to access the tools, services, and information they need to make better decisions about their money. Before I share more about what we're doing for consumers, I'm very proud to share that financial health starts within our own walls, within financial wellness resources for our employees. In the last year, we rolled out personal financial coaching, training resources, and other tools to help all employees reach their personal financial goals. We know that to affect sustained change, we need to rethink how we do business to meet people where they are in this moment. That is why Chase is investing in 3 new community-centered roles: the role of community managers, community home lending advisors, and small business consultants. These roles are focused on proactive outreach at the community level with the goal of providing financial health instruction and resources, counseling for people at different stages of their home ownership journey, and mentoring for minority entrepreneurs to help grow their businesses. We're also upskilling bankers to be financial coaches. In addition, we're investing in 16 community center branches across the country. These community center branches are dedicated to bringing together community organizations, local resources, and support to help people living in neighborhoods such as Stony Island in Chicago, Crenshaw in Los Angeles, and Harlem in New York to get access to actionable and relevant financial helps, tips, and tools. A few thoughts on implementation, because I think this is one of the defining characteristics of our racial equity commitment. Different from efforts in the past where we've mostly tried to affect change through grants, this commitment is actually happening through our business. We are integrating the lens of racial equity into how we run our business, into our strategies and operations, because the goal here is to drive more inclusive outcomes in the long run. The key to getting this right is to ensure local impact, which is why our operating model is heavily focused on the localization of the $30 billion commitment across majority minority cities with underserved communities. So for each of these cities, we ask ourselves, what does this $30 billion commitment mean for Houston, Los Angeles, or Chicago? Here we operate within a bottoms-up, top-down model where the ultimate localization strategies and activations are informed by feedback from our local communities and our teams on the ground. Then, of course, there's accountability. To know if we're making a difference, we need to stay accountable and monitor our progress. And we do this in 2 main ways. First, the numbers. We track and measure our progress and report on it on a monthly basis to ensure that we're tracking towards success. And secondly, we have boots on the ground. Our field colleagues in all of the communities feeding us real-time data and insights, letting us know what's working, what's not, so we can adapt and improve our implementation along the way. In closing, I want to share a story about the people who inspire us to stay focused on these communities. Philip is a muralist in Chicago, known as P. Scott. He has been an entrepreneur since he was 22, dealing with the ups and downs and the economic cycles that come with being an artist. Now in his mid-40s, he's the father of two, he owns his own gallery, and he's also a first-time homeowner. Our team worked with him to see what was possible, to get him ready to apply to a Chase $5,000 home buyer grant, which is one of the initiatives we launched to help more people become homeowners. And today he is a homeowner. A remarkable part of the story is that the Chase Community Home Lending Advisor who reached out to Philip did so after noticing his murals around the city and just decided to reach out. His story reminds me of how we started this journey toward our racial equity commitment. It began with listening tours in cities like Chicago and a commitment from our most senior leadership. It also reflects the evolution of our operating model, specifically the way we're ramping up to proactively outreach to the community. I'm looking forward to continuing this journey and doing our part to help more people in this country have the opportunity to succeed. It is the only way forward to improve financial outcomes for generations to come. Thank you.
We look forward to seeing the impact of these bold commitments. So thank you, Capital One and JP Morgan Chase for sharing. Improving financial health for all requires multiple solutions delivered across a range of moments in people's lives. So our last track of the day is going to be focused on financial solutions, the products and services that help people spend, save, borrow, and plan. This last track will highlight a few of these solutions through spotlight sessions and a panel discussion featuring the Financial Solutions Lab. Our first solution spotlight details key financial health features of Oportun's credit card, which leverages AI and consumer data to help consumers manage income volatility and cover unexpected expenses. Our second spotlight features a conversation between Christine Channels, Head of Community Banking and Client Protection at Bank of America, and Steve Boland, President of Retail at Bank of America, to discuss their bank's affordable and reasonable banking and lending solutions. Please join me momentarily in welcoming Gonzalo Palacio, Senior Vice President of Credit Cards at Oportun, to get things started.
Hola, Emerge. My name is Gonzalo Palacio. I'm the General Manager of the new Oportun credit card product. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak with you today. For 6 years, we've benefited from being part of the Financial Health Network. And thank you for being such an important driving force for the financial health of the customers that we serve. Oportun is a mission-based organization that focuses on providing inclusive financial services to people who may be outside of the mainstream. We're a certified community development financial institution, and over the past 16 years have extended over $10 billion in affordable credit. During that journey, we've helped nearly 1 million people build credit scores that have really helped them get into the financial mainstream. In this journey, we've paid very close attention to how our customers use our products, and we've been asking them, what else can we do for you? We consistently heard they were looking for a product that would help them manage their income volatility. and also help manage and pay for any unexpected expenses. What we heard consistently was, when are you going to offer a credit card? Besides that, we also saw that on the data. Among customers who had no scores when they came to Oportun, 20% of them had opened a credit card when they returned for a second loan. And for customers that then returned for additional loans, we saw 50% of customers who didn't have a score at the beginning actually open a credit card. With this in mind, we created the Oportun Visa credit card. The product is a mainstream credit card with access to credit that makes a difference to those who don't have one. The key benefit is a credit line up to $1,000 for customers who may have no credit score, may have no SSN, and not even a US ID. The card is accepted worldwide with no foreign transaction fees, zero fraud liability, and 24/7 account management. It comes with standard text and email notifications and messaging to motivate customers to make payments higher than the minimum payment. We launched the product in early 2020, and it's now available nationwide. As of March, we have 25,000 active customers, and customers rate us with a 71 NPS score, which is a leading score in the credit card category. And we also see that in what our customers are telling us. Customers like Nancy, who said, "You gave me a chance when no one else did." Or Samuel, who said, "Oportun was the first to trust me." We're very pleased with the performance of the product so far. The credit quality is within expectations. Over a third of the customers have received a credit line of $1,000 or more. Over 50% of the customers are making payments higher than the minimum payment. 66% of the customers saw a positive change in their Vantage score, and 2/3 of the customers who were not scoreable before getting the product are now scoreable. And we have now started extending credit lines increases to customers who have consistent payment behavior. This is just the beginning. We are working on new ways to help customers use credit wisely to achieve a prime or better credit score. We're thinking about incentives for good payment behavior, integrating financial education modules. We already have financial coaching available and plan to graduate customers to even higher value products. As an immigrant, I can relate directly to the experience of many of our customers. After being declined many times for a credit card, I was finally accepted for a credit card with a $300 line as a benefit from my employer. After a year and a half of making payments on time and a few close calls, my line was eventually increased to $500. Only after 2 years was I approved for a credit card with a $1,000 credit card. That feeling of not being good enough to deserve credit really stuck with me. Being able to offer the Oportun credit card to customers who are just starting their financial journey or are seeking a second chance is something that I take to heart. To learn more about the Oportun Visa credit card, please visit oportun.com. And thank you, Emerge, for the opportunity to talk with you today. Look forward to speak with you again very soon.
Hi, I'm Christine Channels, Head of Community Banking and Client Protection at Bank of America. And joining me today is my dear friend and colleague, Steve Boland, President of Retail for Bank of America. Steve is responsible for serving our 33 million U.S. mass market consumers with a full range of financial products and services through our digital banking capabilities and an unmatched retail banking network. He oversees community banking financial centers and consumer lending. Steve is a member of the company's executive management team and is also one of the vice chairs for our Global Diversity and Inclusion Council. I've had the pleasure of working with Steve for more than 7 years in many different roles and supporting him in his business. Without a doubt, he's one of the best leaders I've had the privilege of working with, and I'm thrilled to have him joining me today to talk about Bank of America's affordable and responsible banking and lending solutions. Steve, let's begin our dialogue by talking about the process we follow when we're developing these solutions.
Yeah, so thanks, Christine. And look, it's great to be here with you. Look, everything that we do starts and ends with our clients. Understanding our clients' needs, assessing our clients' needs. And if you think within the bank, we've got all of these product experts who are constantly examining consumer behaviors, what their financial needs might be, and they're listening to our clients, truly understanding their needs. And that's what drives kind of our innovation and product development. So whether we do client panels or we take surveys, we diagnose escalations, however we can stay connected to our clients and listen to their feedback, that's what drives what we work on. We find out what's working, what isn't. We use that information to ensure that we're giving our clients the right tools to achieve their life goals financially. Now, in addition, we engage external stakeholders like the Financial Health Network and other advocates that are with us today through our National Community Advisory Council. See, that's what we did a number of years ago when we developed Safe Balance Banking. 5 years ago, we had a concept, we engaged some stakeholders around how to develop it, and today it's used by more than 2.5 million of our clients. Provides all the essentials of traditional banking without the worry of overdraft or insufficient fund fees, something that was very important to our key stakeholders. It's got a very low monthly cost, and it comes with access to everything we offer, our network of almost 20,000 ATMs, mobile and online banking access, debit cards, and of course our thousands of financial centers. Members of our National Community Advisory Council, as we call them internally, NCAC, also helped us develop our top-rated Better Money Habits financial education resource. It's available in English and Spanish, and it helps people make sense of their money and take steps to improve their financial outcomes. Now, recently, we sought input from consumer advocates and other third parties as we developed what was a game-changing solution, Balance Assist, and I hope we'll get to talk about that later. These external groups helped inform how we shape and market our products and formulate our policies. So we value their engagement and their input to help us get it right. See, we know we have a responsibility and, in my view, an opportunity to help clients move across the financial continuum. So through solutions like Better Money Habits education, safe and transparent product solutions, and other unique programs, we've got the means to help devise and implement steps to help our clients improve their finances and, over time, grow their wealth. So from Bank of America to all of you, we want to thank you for your assistance and feedback in helping us make it happen.
Thank you, Steve. Last year, the bank announced a full suite of products and solutions aimed at helping our clients better manage their money and really improve their financial health. Can you share with us some of the specific products and solutions and how they work?
Yeah, so Christine, as you know, last year we really started talking about the full suite that we call Essential Solutions, but the reality is that work started more than a decade ago. And that's when we really began evolving our consumer practices and our solutions. A direct focus was on making them more transparent, safe, and simple to use, and offering our clients ways to avoid unexpected fees. So the latest addition to that lineup was what we announced last fall, Balance Assist. And look, this is nothing short of revolutionary for the industry. It provides a low-cost way for our clients to manage short-term liquidity needs. Basically, our clients can borrow up to $500 in $100 increments for a flat $5 fee with no interest. They pay it back in 3 equal installments. It helps our clients to manage to a budget. It's offering them this transparent, low-cost alternative to things like overdrafts and payday loans. And it keeps our clients within the mainstream banking system for their short-term liquidity needs. It's really important to us that we hear a lot of dialogue about unbanked and underbanked. Well, underbanked clients, we have to make sure that we provide solutions that keeps them within the system. And by the way, it helps them because it helps them establish a banking and credit history. Now, Balance Assist doesn't stand alone. It really joined a comprehensive set of essential solutions that are designed to help our clients budget, save, spend, and borrow. And so it really all starts with Safe Balance that I talked about earlier. That's our primary operating account. Over 2.5 million of our clients use this account today. There's no overdraft fees. The monthly maintenance fee, which is a modest $4.95, is actually waived for eligible students under the age of 24 and for our clients who are enrolled in Preferred Rewards. We have another program. It's been in place for 15 years called Keep the Change. So when we started this program, it was really just thinking, when clients use your debit card, let us round that purchase up to the next dollar and we'll deposit the difference into a savings account. Well, today, 4.5 million clients use Keep the Change, and over the last 15 years, this program has helped our clients direct more than $15 billion into their savings accounts. Now, another solution that falls under this umbrella is Secured Card. So you think about a client maybe has not established credit, or they maybe need to reestablish credit and rebuild their credit. We enable them to be able to set aside a certain amount of money. We'll pledge against it so they can use the credit card and start establishing a credit relationship and credit record. Today, over 800,000 households using Bank of America's secured card. And then when you think about mortgage, we've got affordable solutions there as well. We've had something called Community Home Ownership Commitment. We know that home ownership is foundational for many people, and it's what it can lead to in terms of financial health and wealth creation. We're proud to have a $15 billion affordable home ownership commitment. To date, over the last 2 years, we've provided $6 billion in mortgages. It includes low down payment mortgages. It includes best-in-class grant program for down payment and closing cost assistance that can go as much as $17,500 per loan. The last couple of years, we've already helped 25,000 home buyers, and we think by 2025, we'll help more than 60,000. So you can see we've got some goals around helping clients with their financial health. We've got clear, simple solutions and advice for our clients on how they reach those goals. And every day, we're helping people find ways to gradually improve their finances by helping them budget, to save, to spend, to borrow carefully and confidently, whether that's an established savings plan and savings discipline that Keep the Change offers, or starting and establishing your credit through secured credit card, or using our budgeting and planning tool like Life Plan.
I've really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Christine. I enjoyed it as well. Good to be with you.
Thank you to our two solution spotlights, Opportune and Bank of America. To close out the solutions track, this next session takes a special focus on the Financial Solutions Lab. The Financial Solutions Lab is the Financial Health Network's largest innovation program. The lab's mission is to cultivate, support, and scale innovative ideas that advance the financial health of low to moderate income individuals. The panel will highlight innovative financial products and services designed to drive positive financial health impact for millions of consumers. There will be a formal Q&A in this session, so feel free to ask questions and engage throughout. My colleague Hannah Calhoun, VP of Innovation, will host a discussion on how innovators responded to the newly encountered challenges of COVID-19 crisis to millions of workers and students. Hannah will be joining us shortly.
Hi, thanks so much, Ale. I'm Hannah Calhoun, VP of Innovation here at the Financial Health Network. Not only do I lead our innovation work, but I have the pleasure of overseeing the Financial Solutions Lab, the Financial Health Network's flagship innovation initiative, which is backed by founding partner JP Morgan Chase and supporting partner Prudential. At the Financial Solutions Lab, we support innovative solutions to financial health challenges, especially those faced by low to moderate income individuals and Black and Latinx communities. And in 2020, we focused on solutions to the challenges faced by workers and students. Even before the pandemic, the financial health of millions of workers and students across the country was precarious. Consider that in spring of 2020, a national survey by the Hope Center found that nearly 3 out of 5 university students were experiencing basic needs insecurity. That means they weren't able to afford food or housing. When they leave school, many of these students are burdened by debt. Student loan debt is now the second highest consumer debt category. At $17 trillion, it's second only to mortgage debt and higher than debt for both credit cards and auto loans. And entering the workforce is no guarantee of stability. An estimated 15.5 million Americans are in alternative work arrangements without access to traditional benefits like disability, health insurance, or paid time off. And we know that up to 1/3 of American workers will need to change jobs or retrain due to the changing economy by 2030. Today, I'm joined by 3 experts whose organizations are working to change the financial future for workers and students. Michael Collins is Vice President at JFF, a national nonprofit that drives change in the American workforce and education systems to increase economic advancement for all. He leads a new JFF effort to increase equity in education, employment, earnings, and economic mobility outcomes for Black learners and workers. Sanket Karuri is head of product at Equity, where he leads the research, design, and implementation of anti-poverty technology, connecting students to emergency aid dollars and non-monetary resources. Equity participated in the Financial Solution Lab's 2020 Accelerator. Previously, he was the product lead for the College Board Opportunity Scholarships, a program that uses scholarships ranging from $500 to $40,000 to incentivize students to take the right steps en route to a quality college choice. And finally, Bridget Tate. Bridget is Change Machine's Director of National Accounts. In this role, Bridget leads virtual coaching direct services and the programs team for Change Machine. Change Machine builds financial security through people-powered technology that reaches social service organizations and public agencies nationwide. They were also a 2020 FSL Exchange Grant recipient. Prior to her role at Change Machine, Bridget was the Deputy Director for a HUD housing agency in Durham, North Carolina. Bridget has worked in nonprofit for the last 20 years, working directly with consumer debt, policy, and racial inequities. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm going to kick us off with a couple of questions, but we're hoping to have time to take Q&A from the audience. So if you're listening, please put your questions in the chat. Sanket, I'll start with you. Talk to us about the effects you're seeing of the pandemic on students.
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you all for joining. The EdQuity's been around since before the pandemic. We do decisioning and disbursement of emergency aid, but as the pandemic started to unfold, it set off a series of shocks, right, that are going to change the landscape of their post-secondary experience in the long run, right? Immediately after the pandemic started, we saw, as you described in the Hope report, levels of basic needs insecurity rise. And one of the caveats that I would put to that data even is that it doesn't account for the students who dropped out, right? And so it's important to note that with all of this data in the background, we're seeing, depending on where you are, depending on the segment of students that you're talking about, really high rates of dropout. And so I think it's important to think about both what's going on for the students that are still persevering through in school, but also those that we have lost and hope to get back into the college-going experience. We work on doing decisioning and disbursement, as I said, for colleges and universities, and there was that initial shock to students, but there was a concurrent shock to the folks trying to serve them, right? There was a shock to state and local budgets, and particularly those in student services and administering emergency aid. So at the same time that you saw need for direct services and emergency aid go through the roof, those departments and those individuals were crippled, right, in doing the very important work that they do. And so that initial landscape during the pandemic brought about a lot of philanthropic aid, right, where colleges and universities were working with their partners to get as much assistance out as possible. So we did play a role there. But now as the pandemic has unfolded and these recovery acts have taken place, it's been another set of shocks, right? You sort of have that student shock that's continuing, but you have these new policy and regulatory implications on the folks who want to serve them, who are being given massive influxes of capital. There's finally that recognition that the real cost of college, that the reason why students drop out is not their immediate debt during college, but the cost of going to college as they are oft parents, right? More than half of the students that we work with are student parents, right? They are working and upskilling during their experience. And so it's important to note that as this massive influx of capital comes in, you don't have those departments in colleges and universities to really do that work and administer this money, and you have real regulatory concerns in doing so. So coming out of the pandemic for students, there is that hope that we've recognized that the problem can be solved, not totally solved, but really alleviated. We can improve retention and graduation rates with direct cash assistance and getting to know the student's individualized situation. But the infrastructure isn't there yet to effectively distribute that capital, and the promises of that capital in the years to come are still awaiting. So there's hope for students, but there's a long way to go.
Thank you. And it's interesting to hear you talk about both sort of the needs you saw developing with students and also with schools and institutions. Bridget, Change Machine helps social service organizations provide financial counseling and support to their clients. And so you also are working with two different sets of constituencies. I'd love to hear more about what you heard from your partners about how their clients' needs were changing during the pandemic and how Change Machine shifted your services to adjust to that.
Absolutely. In the context of this conversation, while we do work with variances of organizations, I'm going to focus on the work that we're doing currently with HBCU students and what we've been doing with college students and alumni and faculty and family over the course of the last 2 years. Much to what was said prior, the insecurities that have existed were just unveiled in regards to on a national and global level. These are not things that we did not know before in regards to what impedes graduation, retention, the struggles that students, especially Black and Brown students, face as they travel through the university process of get higher education. And we have known for quite some time that the student loan debt, the difference between white student loan borrowers and Black and Brown student loan borrowers is extremely concerning. And so this is what we were digging into prior to the pandemic. And what happened was crisis hit crisis. And what it did is it continued to exacerbate a system that is currently broken. And because I'm primarily solely working with 4 HBCUs across the nation, I think some context that I can give you, what I'm hearing from working with these partners in regards to the pandemic, at the time that it hit and shutting down, one of the things that really became polarized is that the reliance on student housing for housing when schools begin to close down. It helped us to examine, again, the racial wealth gap. Parents had to come get students. Students had to get home, and there was no money set aside for that. And so we're further digging into this from many lenses. One, again, it's a system that's broken on a higher level when we talk about federal debt and student loan. There is a lack of investment, or had been, because what also happened during the pandemic is George Floyd, and advocacy and voices became louder. And so what we're seeing, much to, I want to get your name right, Sanket said, is that there's now this eye on HBCUs that have always been traditionally underfunded, and there is money pouring in. There is definitely money, funders are interested, but how to disperse that money and how to do it in an equitable way for students that are going to benefit, so that the retention rates and the amount of debt that they incur in seeking their education. And so we came into this engagement to help universities embed financial securities within their existing programs on campus. And we were primarily working with student services. And so that would be like TRIO programs, so students who receive additional funding due to having received Pell Grants, students who are in disciplinary, some type of corrections, and how that correlates to how you're managing your money and your forward thinking of consequences. And we use coaching in that model as well. But we've made, while we're all still doing that, we have really gotten excited about some of the positives and the highlights that's happened, is that sense of advocacy and policy has become larger for students. And that also has streamlined and bled into alumni, faculty. Often what you will find at HBCUs are many faculties are alumni of other HBCUs and have that type of debt that they're still carrying as well way into their adulthood that they haven't paid off. And so we're currently doing some roundtables, putting together some panels and things of that nature, but not for us to make the decisions and the clarifications as to where the corrections need to be made, but to assure that these individuals are all at the table and that we're bringing them together and convening them together to look towards those solutions. And so some of the things that, I think that's going to be one of your questions, Hannah. Don't let me, I can go on forever. Feel free to stop me anytime. So to answer your question, what we've seen is that a need to help to support coalitions, definitely policy data in regards to the whys, the hows. As we move forward in this conversation, one of the things I'm definitely going to be talking about is how can we help to do some type of reparations around student loan debt that is equitable to the Black and Brown community. Also, what does UBI look like at this point? Right? We've just seen an infusion of how much money come into this country overnight. So short but sweet in that portion, but those are some of the things and needs that the campuses have been sharing and students have been sharing with me.
Great, thank you. And yes, we are going to come back to the questions about policy and policy reform in just a second. But before we do, I want to turn to Michael. I heard in both Sanket and Bridget's responses some conversation around really institutional and organizational and societal infrastructure around supporting students and workers, both pre and post-pandemic. And I would love to hear what you see the lessons are from the past year in terms of how we can better support learners.
Absolutely, and I really appreciate the previous comments. And at a macro level, the short answer is that those systems and structures and infrastructure, not only were they not connected, they were sclerotic, right, and could not meet the moment, right. So our major lessons from kind of the pandemic and some of the racial unrest that Bridget was talking about is that it's a clear example that, the future is here. We talked about kind of the future of work and jobs for the future. Well, the future came really quickly and it demanded that our systems be connected, right? Like it demanded that our post-secondary system be connected to our workforce development system, right? And they weren't connected. So you had people who were, perhaps in a traditional post-secondary kind of pathway, COVID happens, things shut down, all of a sudden the employment mix is different, jobs went away, people needed to plug into kind of rapid skilling opportunities to get available jobs. And where were they to go, right? They were isolated. It wasn't clear where to go. And so I think the lesson, the major lesson for us is that, this moment really exposed that we really don't have the agile and connected post-secondary system and workforce development system that we need to have a strong economy and to really, kind of keep learners and workers out of harm's way for these types of disruption, right? I think that we know that this was a great example that not only can these disruptions happen, but I think the opportunity is for us to. I agree with Bridget. There's some bright spots and some things that we can learn. So one of the clear things we need to do is to ensure that our systems are connected, our short-term and long-term credentials are connected, and we're seeing kind of skilling, kind of rapid reskilling and upskilling opportunities kind of happen both at the kind of the state level, the regional level, there are, skilling platforms like, Guild and, kind of Skill Up, but all of these things need to be connected, right? And we also need clear navigation, right? Career navigation. How do we help learners and workers understand what training and opportunities are out there that fit for them? What supports, like the emergency aid that we were talking about, what supports are out there for, to avail yourselves of these opportunities? I think another big lesson is that, I know it's almost trite. We talk about lifelong learning, right? But the reality of having to continue to skill and upskill has been really made clear as a result of COVID. So what does that look like? What is the infrastructure for, the lifelong learning? How is it funded? What are the supports for people to be able to do that while they're also trying to support their families? We need to learn the lessons that, we were not prepared with our digital infrastructure, right? So having to go, right to online, it just really exposed that we weren't ready. So we have to do more around our digital technologies, making sure that we are making sure that people that are disconnected, right, are able to be connected. We know that there are issues around kind of digital equity. I'll just share a couple of more. I think that we also really learned that our supply and demand side, if you will, right, like so our post-secondary education and training system, is not always aligned to what employers need, right? And when those needs changed, our post-secondary education and training systems, really were in some ways flat-footed, right? And not able to kind of redesign really quickly. And so how do we connect supply and demand, and how can we innovate much more rapidly, I think. And then I think, Bridget touched on, and I guess it's not the elephant in the room anymore. It's just, it's something that we're talking about, the issues around kind of racial, economic inequality. It was so stark. It was so clear that the majority of, frontline workers were workers of color, Black and Latinx workers in harm's way of coronavirus. And the ones that kept their job in harm's way, many of them were the first to lose their jobs, right? And this was really not a surprise. We knew coming out of the Great Recession that these populations were vulnerable, right? And our reforms and innovations, just had not situated these populations in a position of strength. And so there's great work to do there as we redesign our systems. And I'll stop there. There's just so many lessons. I'm like Bridget, I could keep going and going with some of the things that we've learned.
Yeah, of course. And we appreciate that. I do want to create some space for us to talk a little bit about the policy implications of all that we have learned over the last year. And Michael, maybe I'll start with you. Is there a specific policy issue based on all of those lessons you just shared that your organization is really focused on as we come out of the pandemic?
I would just say, at a macro level, I think that we need to invest in, our kind of the strength and resilience of our workforce development system, right? So our post-secondary system and our workforce development system, we certainly believe, there's an opportunity with the American Jobs Plan. So certainly, want to support that. But also, in addition to kind of, supporting kind of our workforce development infrastructure and making it more agile, we'd like to see a robust and modernized career navigation system with so many different types of training opportunities. There are, I think the latest evidence, there are close to 1 million different types of credentials, and close to half of those are traditional credentials, but then there are the industry-based credentials. How do learners and workers make sense of all of that, right? We need to support them as they make decisions about, kind of what's going to be best for them. And then I think, again, infrastructure for lifelong learning, we can't just keep talking about that. We need to invest in policy and incentives to build that infrastructure. How do we think about providing kind of financial support for people to kind of skill and upskill over the course of their working lives? What does that, look like? How do we create incentives for employers to be engaged in training kind of their workers and, kind of supporting talent pipeline, I think are some other opportunities. And then, finally, kind of at a macro level, I think it's really important, we saw kind of our attempt. I think we got some things right, but then there's some lessons with what we tried to do to support workers who are in transition, right? So there was lots of debate about the, kind of the unemployment and insurance, and we think that it's really important for us to have a system that supports and protects workers, right, that are vulnerable in these kinds of transitions. So we certainly want to support kind of policies that that provide that support to workers in transition. So those are just some of the things that we think are policy opportunities, and we're working with our kind of both our partners on the ground and our working through coalitions in DC to kind of advocate for these policies.
Great, thank you. Bridget, I want to give you some space to keep the policy conversation going. Talk to us about some of your biggest priorities.
So as an organization, all of the work that we do through the direct service, through supporting other organizations, through training, building, and capacity building, at the end of the day, this is truly all about not only additionally scaling and the network effect outside of our organization and supporting other organizations that do this work, but it's about the data that we collect that can impact, influence, inform policy. And just a side note, that we do all of that. Change Machine is more than just a direct service and support. We do have our own fintech arm, be it our platform that we do all of this in. And so I elevate that because the importance of the data and information that we're collecting is going to be impactful towards some of the policy things that we're interested in. In context of this conversation, we're going to just talk a little bit about student loans and what are some things that we can do with the data that we're collecting, with the information, with the roundtables and the individuals who are being most impacted. What can we do to influence policy changes? Look, the low-hanging fruit is cancel the debt. But cancel the debt only fixes the immediate. It's not going to fix the continued. It's not going to answer to a system that has been set up racially divided intentionally, where folks are still carrying debt and have paid on debt to know and paid, listen, just interest at this point for 25 years. I have horror stories. So how are we going to amend that and make that equitable across the board? So we're looking at different avenues to do it. There is a question about, how can employers get involved? And I'm a straight shooter, so I need to preface it. All of that is one of the things that we've really been mindful of is who's at the table, where are the philanthropy, where's the pivots been made during the pandemic? And again, because of the culture and the tone at this time in regards to elevating Black lives and Brown lives, that there's a pivot, there's a strong pivot, and money is going to institutions that have DEI lenses, it's going to HBCUs, but it's not enough just to fund these, right? We need to talk about the why you're funding. And so with that why comes some accountability and responsibility. And I say that even to the organizations and large corporations who are now mining HBCUs for students to come work for them because they fit the need at this moment. And that's an awesome thing. That's not a negative, but where's the accountability then to these employers who are getting high quality graduates to lend not only to their DEI lens, but also to the expertise of what they bring to the table with value? Why are we not talking about those organizations, those companies that are mining these Black and Brown students, doing some type of, listen, it's a thought, you got to shoot for the stars and hope you grab the lab post, but why are we not talking about kind of a design of like a 401k match, but we call it something else, where those organizations, those companies are helping these individuals to pay down their debt. That's a start. That could be an immediate start, right? So you're going to put your money where your mouth is, because we acknowledge that this debt is out there and that these individuals who are coming to you and potentially are making six figures are still behind the eight ball because of the amount of debt that they carry in reference and encounter to their white peers and colleagues. So that's one place that we're talking and doing some exploration. And of course, working with CRL, who has collected amazing data, and Ashley Harrington working with her, our number right now is $50,000 cancellation, and let's say at the table so we can figure negotiating this. So those are some of the policy things that we're looking at in the immediate. And again, we want to carry this conversation because we are not just the best thinkers in the room. It takes collaboration, meaning Sanket, I will be reaching out to you immediately. Really interested in knowing what you're doing. I think there is a lot to be said about the workforce aspect also that JFF is talking about, and how we put those two things together for value. So yeah, those are some of the things we're working on.
Great, thank you. Sanket, we know that sometimes policies are driven by assumptions about who students and workers are, and those assumptions aren't always correct. And Bridget just talked about the ways in which fintech platforms can really collect data about who students are and what they need. And I would love to hear you talk a bit about, what you all have learned about who students are and what that means for their financial needs and what that means for their financial health.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I really appreciate the lenses that Bridget and Michael have brought to the problem as well. But you have this narrative in a lot of these rooms and a lot of these spaces in fintech companies and financial health, where the assumption is that students are still 18 to 22, right? They take 4 years to graduate and then they get a job. But that is a relatively small minority. That's somewhere around 20% of students who graduate in 6 years, right? And so our students, we serve 2- and 4-year institutions generally that serve low-income Americans, right? And they are more likely to be 25 to 40, right? They're likely to have children, right? They're likely to have jobs. They're likely to be facing multiple challenges, right? So it's not just housing, but food, childcare, health, medical debts on top of student debts that are accruing. And so the thing that we've learned is just the complexity of this problem. But as you start to step out of that complexity to get into some of the constructive points that Bridget and Michael were raising, the thing that we're really learning is that students need us to design for them, right? We have all of these various benefits and all sorts of policymakers trying to scale up SNAP, trying to scale up TANF, trying to scale up all of these individual benefits. But if you look at the most vulnerable populations, Black and brown populations, the navigation of what is already available to them is impossible, right? And so that's why we exist as Edquity. And so I think there needs to be fundamental change to design for the folks we're trying to benefit. And to get at Bridget's point too, I think we at Edquity in particular, and I think everyone in this room, and in general, we're getting a little tired of we're describing the racial aspect of this problem in greater and greater detail, but not enough folks are doing something about it. And so I think moving to action on that piece, for instance, one of the things our approach is something that we study to ensure that it's anti-racist over time, in that we know levels of need are significantly higher in Black and brown populations and Native populations. And so our questionnaire, our algorithm doesn't actually take into account race. We just ask what a student's individual circumstances are, right? But then we look at our funding data and make sure that compared to the baseline student population that we're more likely to fund Black and brown students, because the needs are just greater in those communities. And when you open it up to essays and pictures and narratives, bias is more likely to creep in. And so we need these anti-racist approaches to do justice to the statistics we all throw around, because candidly, I hear a lot of them all the time, but we need programmatic design to address them, and then we need to evaluate that they're being addressed, or else what was the point?
Yeah. Michael, one of the questions that has come in the chat that I wanted to get your take on, and I think we're hearing a bit of a theme around navigation, right? These sort of fragmented resources and programs and no real ability for folks to build coherent paths together, is what employers as stakeholders in this system can do to help connect the systems around post-secondary workforce development and the like? Is there a role for them to play in making this an easier pathway to navigate for job seekers?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think that employers are critical partners, right? And so as we think about the, we talk about the post-secondary education training system. I think we need to really kind of frame it, the learn to work ecosystem, right? And it includes employers. And so one example of where employers really kind of come to the table, so JFF partnered with some other organizations to launch the Skill Up platform. And it's a platform where people can go to identify, like they can assess their skill needs, they get connected to employers, right? So training opportunities and employers. And so I think that we want to see more kind of post-secondary and workforce engagement, direct engagement with employers, right? Around kind of the competencies, the skills, that are needed for kind of real jobs, kind of in real communities. And so I think that as we assess our lessons, one of the lessons really is that authentic engagement. And in post-secondary, traditional post-secondary, historically it's been, you have an advisory committee of employers that you connect with, every, meeting. And it's just like we need something much different than that. And thankfully, one of the bright spots in this moment is employer groups have come together. Coalitions of employers have come together. We host a kind of a Recover Stronger network. It's a group of kind of employers who have come together to partner to think about and implement kind of policies that support learners and workers and support diverse talent pipelines and connecting them to opportunities. So I think that it's a great question, and I think employers are critical partners.
Great. We are coming up at time. So to close us out, I'm going to do a quick round robin, and I would love for each of you to share rapid fire answers to the following 2 questions. So we're looking for 1 to 3 words here. Now, the first question is, what's one thing from the past year you hope will change? And the second question is, what's one thing that you hope continues? I will start with Sanket. Awesome.
In terms of continues, I think the amount of funding and attention, and in terms of change, are the infrastructure available to make the funds effective.
Great. Bridget?
One thing from the past year I hope will change is, so much, the broken system. And I think one thing that I hope continues is this honest, transparent conversations that we've been forced to have over the last 16 months.
Great. And Michael?
One thing to continue, I'm with Bridget, kind of the current focus on populations. I think that needs to continue. One thing to change is we really need to modernize kind of the college mobility narrative, right? This whole notion that you go to college and everything's great after you graduate. We really have to update that. That's just, it's a myth, right?
Great. Well, thank the 3 of you so much for being with us today. This was a wonderful conversation. We so appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to continuing to collaborate with all of you, because as Bridget said, it takes a village, and so appreciate the work you all are doing in this space.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
To conclude today's conversation on innovative solutions, I'd like to take a few minutes to highlight the newest cohort of fintechs joining the Financial Solutions Lab in 2021. As you heard from the panelists, many Americans were struggling to become financially healthy even before the pandemic. And over the last year, our research shows that Black Americans, people with low incomes, and women have borne the brunt of the economic consequences of the coronavirus crisis. This year, we're excited to support a set of fintechs that are equipping these individuals with financial tools, services, and protections that can help them improve their financial resilience and build long-term stability. Please join me in congratulating the 2021 Financial Solutions Lab Accelerator cohort. Daylight, a digital banking platform designed for the unique financial needs of LGBT+ people. Asusu, a data platform that helps low-income people build credit as they make monthly rental payments. Everyday Life, a life insurance provider offering affordable coverage that shifts based on life events. Home Lending Pal, a home lending marketplace using artificial intelligence and blockchain to improve the mortgage process for underserved first-time homebuyers. Leap Fund, a nonprofit offering a financial calculator that helps workers overcome benefits cliffs to achieve financial independence. Lifesaver, a mobile banking platform that empowers community banks and credit unions to advance consumer financial wellness. Seago, a bilingual mobile application offering affordable auto insurance to the Latinx and immigrant communities. And Upsolve, a nonprofit web application offering free access to bankruptcy and legal assistance and financial education. To learn more, you can visit finlab.finhealthnetwork.org. The link should be in your chat. And please keep an eye out for member-exclusive opportunities to engage with these companies later this year. Thank you all so much.
Well, thank you for such an inspiring panel, and what an inspiring day. It's really a testament that the financial health movement is alive and growing. I hope that hearing the partnerships, commitments, and solutions from today provide examples of the ingredients that are needed to continue permeating the financial health movement across sectors. I'm now joined by my colleagues, Marisa Walser and Davina Khanna. Marisa is our business strategy lead, and Davina leads our policy work at the Financial Health Network. Marisa and Davina, welcome.
Hi, Ale.
Hey. So day 3, we've heard some fantastic content in the past 3 days. What resonated with you? Marisa, let's start with you.
Thanks, Ale. There were so many enlightening and inspiring moments. We heard calls for some really seismic change, standard national financial health measurement, moving government away from government funding, away from the fees and penalties that can exacerbate financial inequities. We also heard about the amazing impact that individuals and organizations are having, from Daylight doing such incredible work to provide better banking to the LGBT plus community, to the incredible leadership that people like Dan Schulman and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands are having. Our CEO, Jennifer Tescher, said in her opening keynote that financial health for all is going to take broad engagement, people, and commitment. And I heard that ring through every session. Every one of us that joined over the past 3 days and beyond has a role to play and can drive impact.
Awesome. Davina?
I echo all of Marissa's comments. It was an inspiring 3 days. And what I was most impressed with was the diversity in the types of speakers that we heard from. We learned about various efforts from almost every type of financial services provider. And each individual speaker came from a different walk of life and brought their own lived experiences to the table. And I think that made for a very unique 3 days.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I agree with both of you. It's really great to see so many sectors come together. The diversity of experience was wonderful. And something that really resonated with me in this just in the last panel was from Michael Collins from JFF. He pointed or he really honed in on the fact that ensuring systems are connected is going to be a key piece of the puzzle here. We're heading into a moment where we're calling for solutions. And most importantly, I think another theme was cross-sector collaboration. We can't be thinking of these solutions in silence. We know that a lot of the problems have been around for a while, and they're not going to be solved by just one of the industries. So, that really resonated with me. Bridget in the last session too called on the importance of listening to what community leaders and advocates have to say. So we're not designing solutions in a vacuum and really thinking that through. So I fully agree with your comments. Davina, we heard really bold commitments from various leaders across the 3 days. What are you excited about in terms of cross-sector collaboration? What is something that leaders need to do to be part of this financial health movement?
I'm always very encouraged to see partnerships across organizations that you would never expect, whether it be a fintech with a nonprofit, an employer with a financial institution, or a financial institution with a government agency. The partnerships that we learned about today, such as the Wounded Warriors Project with Prudential, or BlackRock and its various partners with the BlackRock Savings Initiative. We also heard about Fifth Third and the National Urban League of Women's Voters. I think these partnerships really highlight what happens when organizations with complementary skills and differing audiences team up. A number of speakers, including, I believe it was the Wounded Warriors Project, also mentioned how they're measuring that impact. And these partnerships have the opportunity to enhance financial health and potentially reach a much larger audience that an individual organization would not be able to without that partner. Ale, you spoke about bold commitments, and I agree with you. They were bold, what we heard today. It's encouraging to see financial institutions, at the risk of sounding cliche, put their money where their mouth is. I think these are great first steps, and they show that financial institutions are serious about issues like racial justice. I'd also be interested to see how these financial institutions are measuring impact. It would be great to revisit these commitments 1 year from now, and to ensure that these commitments lead to long-term results. How are these organizations measuring impact? I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's when you understand what these full commitments, what they are, what works, and also what doesn't work, right? I think that's the beauty in some ways of measurement. It really teaches you what things are working and you should keep investing on, where to pivot and go somewhere else. So I fully agree with that. Moving us along, let's talk about partnerships and solutions. Other companies may not know where to start. We talked a lot about different solutions, different approaches. So what should they do? Where should they get started? Davina, I'm going to pass it on to you first as well.
Well, I think our organization has been really critical in helping facilitate a number of these partnerships. We've seen this through our nonprofit FinTech Exchange, through our member summit, our Emerge conference. We've facilitated quite a bit of this. I know that networking is tricky during a pandemic when we don't have our in-person conferences, but I think that sessions like this, what we've held in the last 3 days, and the Emerge conferences we've held before, show that networking and engaging can happen in a virtual environment too, particularly for organizations that have differing skills. So I think it's really important for organizations to reach out to other organizations that are very different from them, not the same type of company. And if you're not sure where to start, and this is something you're interested in, and you don't know what the first step is, reach out to us. I mean, we have really great membership folks. We have some really great staff that are willing to help and to help facilitate this, or even just to brainstorm and throw out these ideas.
Yeah. I agree. So certainly reaching out to us, I heard that. Our FinTech Exchange is a great resource as well. Marisa, how about you?
Davina mentioned the importance of measuring impact, and you certainly can't do that without data. Right? Data is so important. So little happens today without data. You wouldn't run a business without data. You wouldn't even run a marketing campaign without data today. And so we really need to start thinking about financial health and financial health data in that same way. And there are really a growing number of great tools out there that can help. Our own FinHealth Score toolkit and Attune, which lets you easily collect and benchmark financial health data of customers and employees. But that data collection is really just the tip of an iceberg. Creating a vision for the role you want your organization to play in financial health impact. Building an infrastructure of people and processes to support that, using that data to manage performance, and really delivering on solutions at work. This can take a real transformation in mindset and strategy. Ellie, as you know, earlier this year, we launched our FinHealth Map. It's a maturity model framework and assessment tool really aimed at helping organizations navigate this, trying to make it clear and actionable, because we know that this type of work and these transformations are not simple or easy. But no one should have to go this alone. We are all here collectively together. So in addition to collecting data, I also suggest that you all join us for our bonus day of Emerge Financial Health on June 23rd. We're going to get really tactical. We're going to go deep into the math and how to have impact. We will hear from leaders from across the financial services industry, giving insights into the tools, the teams, the processes, the solutions that work. I know I am super energized by these past 3 days, and I'm sure everyone else is too. So please join me on June 23rd, 1 p.m. Central, and we are going to map the FinHealth future of your business.
I love that, Marisa, and I'm looking forward to tuning in and having you as a host on the 23rd. So very excited for that extra bonus day. And to me, it's clear that the financial health movement is moving based on all of our conversations in the past couple of days. And to be part of it, companies must assess their internal strategies and understand how their internal systems are aligning in favor of a holistic financial health strategy. So Marisa, Davina, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank all of you for joining us today. Today's sessions and the format were a new experiment for us at the Financial Health Network. And as we think about virtual events, we'd love your honest feedback about how today went. So we're going to be launching a poll here soon. Please share your feedback with us. And as we close for today, I want to invite you to join us for our last day on Emerge. I hope that Marisa already convinced you to join us on June 23rd from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central Time. This is going to be an opportunity to understand how your organizations can develop comprehensive financial health strategy. During these sessions, we're going to get details on how companies are integrating their financial health into their vision, into their infrastructures, into their performance. So understanding how they're doing their measurement strategies and how they're building solutions. So this is going to be an extremely informative day. Please join us. We'll see you on June 23rd.